First off, I want to start out by saying this is not a sponsored video. Kreg did not give me anything. I purchased this stuff with my own money, and I'm going to do a video on unboxing, putting this together, and giving you my initial thoughts on this benchtop router table. I'm already a little bit disappointed that the router table doesn't come with a full assortment of the trim rings, the reducing rings, and it does not come with the external switch. I had to buy those two separate. I would rather it all be in here and just pay a few bucks extra for the table than to get the table and realize that I don't have that stuff. So I did watch a lot of videos, read some reviews. I was a little skeptical because this router table has a melamine top, not aluminum. I kind of sort of would have liked it to be aluminum, but it was the features that you can get for this, such as fence stops and some other stuff, that this is actually set up pretty nice for what I want to do, that the other tables didn't just seem to have available. So that's why I chose this Kreg. So let's get on with this video, get this box opened up, put this thing together, and see what kind of quality we're looking at. Hi everybody, I'm Jim Dierdorf and this is Detroit DIY. Let's cut this bad boy open. So I ordered this from Amazon and not from Kreg directly. When it got here, this corner's been a little crunched and another corner has been a little crunched. So I'm hopeful that there's plenty of foam in here to protect it from whatever damage it may have incurred during shipping, because who knows, we might be closing the box up and sending it back. I don't know. You know how that works. Seems like some of these companies, you order stuff from them and it arrives all bashed up and you have to send it back anyway. So, alright, well, so there's some stuff on the corners. I don't know if we can see. I'm going to try and lift it up here so you can see. So the corner bashing didn't really hurt anything. We have some boxes around the outside of the table, and the fence is over here on the inside. Now, right away I can kind of tell you that I like what I'm seeing in the fence. That's a nice aluminum fence, blue anodizing on it. That's really nice. The table, let's get the table out of here. I'm liking the looks of the insert. So, oops, we have to apparently attach that miter slot, but this is our top surface. A little bit grippy. Oh, my bad, I thought it was melamine. This is actually particle board. I don't know if that's better or worse, but we'll find out. It's mine now. I'm not going to have the answer to that. It's going to be in time, right? It is, however, a very nice insert, and it does feel like it's a phenolic insert. It's not aluminum, I don't think. It might be aluminum. It's got some weight to it, so I'm not sure if that's aluminum or if that's phenolic. We've got a nice little T-track that goes in here, and what I really liked about the fence was the fact that it also has Kreg's version of a T-track in the top of it and along the back of it. I'm not sure that these are standard sized T-tracks, but Kreg does make fence stops, or they make some stops and some other stuff that will ride in these tracks. So that's what appealed to me a lot about this router table to begin with. I'm not sure how high this sits off the bench. I think anything's got to be an improvement to the old Ryobi table that I had. I made it work for a long time, but I was just kind of tired of making it work. I take it we got everything appears to be, I would assume, powder coating. A nice blue powder coating to it. I like that. Alright, in a second here we'll be able to get some of this stuff out of the way and start putting this thing together. Everything's packaged pretty nice. I don't see anything banged up, so they definitely packaged it for the, you know, those shipping guys that play football with your stuff before it arrives. Got some nice styrofoam in between the legs. Some stands for the legs. Alright. We've got one more box to open here, which must have all our hardware. And then we can start the assembly. So, yes, all of our hardware is in here. Oh, and they send it with 3 different flush bushings. Well, this is a bushing guide. This one's for 2 5/8, and this is the 1 inch. And they told me that in the reviews that I read that it was light, so I went ahead and just bought the 5-piece reducing ring set from Kreg for this table. So now I have probably duplicates of these, but I have every ring that I would need to use this table the way that I want to use it. Alright, not sure what this is, but we're going to find out in a few minutes. This is some more pieces for our fence. A nice little lock-on-lock for those rings. Oh, we even get a little tape measure here. Kind of liking that. Our dust collection. Some inserts, possibly a start pin. Some pocket screws and a little driver. Oh, these are pretty cool too, because this is also a jointing fence, now that I see these. And that's what these do, is bump one side of the fence out further than the other side, so that you can joint a board in this router table. And that's pretty cool. That's intriguing to me. Another reason why I selected this one, and I kind of forgot about it until I saw those rods. Alright, we got all kinds of good stuff here. Oh, the locking knobs for the fence. Alright, and here's our instructions. So we'll get some of this stuff out of the way and start put this together. Alright, well, it's a good thing for pictures, because it gives you this description of number 1, number 2, but it tells you what they are. So if you go over here to the diagram, what it wants us to do first is put the feet on the legs, the little rubber snubbers. So it kind of gives you a picture right here, and it gives you a reference number, so you can go over here to the reference numbers. But they didn't number any of the bags, but they did put the length of the screw. It just says 1 inch number 8 coarse thread maxi lock screws, but here it just says 1-inch coarse thread screws, quantity of 4. So these are the only ones with a quantity of 4, so I take it this is the correct ones. These are pretty obvious. These are the feet, and then these are the blocks that the screw goes into. So let's get these feet on. Looks like most all of these screws are square drives, so I am going to use the driver that they supplied. There we have it. Get these feet open. I think once we figure out exactly what's going on here, this should go together pretty quick. Alright, so basically what it's saying is this guy goes in here like this. This guy goes right here. Oops, I should have got a screw ready first. And then the screw is basically held in place by these. It looks fairly tidy. All right. It's like the day after Christmas. Too bad I had to buy it myself. Alright, now we'll move on to step 2. Step 2 is the short rails. So these rails right here are going to go on the legs. So we'll move one of these out of the way. Get a couple legs over here. Obviously they're going to go down low in these square holes, and they do. And they go on the inside. So I would take it just like that. Now let's find our hardware. Number 8 and number 9. Be some 1/4 socket head screws. No, it won't. 1/4 by half inch flathead carriage bolts, which we have right here, and 1/4 inch flange nuts, which we have right here. This is probably the hardware for the entire process. So This shouldn't be bad at all. Nuts on the inside. Hopefully these rubber feet are grippy enough to keep it from sliding all over the place. I like the fact that they're 1/4 bolts. Maybe it's American made. That'd be nice. So with a 7/16 deep wall socket, I'm going to go ahead and tighten these up. I may regret that if I have to loosen them up to get whatever screws here to line up, but we'll find out. Alright, so now we got to put the other side together. Alright, now next we assemble these longer brackets to the legs and start to see the table itself take shape. Looks good. And of course it's a little bit cumbersome. There we go. I think I'm going to wait to snug these up until after I get it together. I think there's a potential for it to be pretty non-level if I tighten them up right now. Starting to look a little bit like something now. Alright, I don't know exactly what's going on here, but it seems to be fighting me a little bit here with the shape of it. These long braces are bowed in a little bit. They're not tight, so for right now I'm just going to start a nut on that one. It kind of acts like something's not exactly square here, but alright. We even get a nice little Kreg logo on there. If need be, I'll loosen these two up. We'll wait and see what screws here. I'm sure the top screws here somehow. Wait and see how that all lines up before I tighten the rest of these. Set this to the side for a minute, and we are going to install the T-track into this groove. In all realities, I think they could have done this at the factory. This could already be installed instead of having to install it now. So number 12, 5mm by 20mm flathead screws. So these are flatheads, but they say nothing on them. These are flatheads that are number 8 by 3/4. Now these do have a number in the book, which is a NK8023. This is an NK8044. The printing is not very good on the package. This is an RT10159, so that's not going to be the ticket. This is NK8044. We already looked at that one. Huh. I must be missing something here. Because it's not that. It's definitely not this. Not this. So there should be 3. This is the only package that has 3 screws on it, but it does not have the correct number. NK8044. Let's see if we can find that in here. Okay, there is no NK8044 in here. So, I'm guessing since this is the only 3 screws, and I think this is the start pin right here and the screw, the set screw that goes into it, or the Allen screw. So we're going to take a look at these. See how they sit in the track and if they fit in the hole. Not very thrilled about that. I like it when instructions are laid out nicely for you and you don't have to guess. I don't think you should have to guess. But basically in this package were 3 screws and what I believe is the start pin and the set screw that screws into the end of the start pin. And then these screws right here, which look like that's exactly what I should be using. So let's set that into place. The square drive won't run them, so I need a Phillips screwdriver. Threaded in there nicely, so I'm guessing that I made the right swing at it here. What I was looking at was seeing that this is going to protrude out of the bottom of the table a little bit. It doesn't really matter when it's all said and done. I have to say, this is not a T-track. This is just a nice little grooved track. Alright. So now next it says we need to put these brackets on the bottom. And these are what's going to hold the plate in place. So we have three holes in each. It's got a nice little curved edge on it, so it's kind of self-explanatory which way they go. Alright, there's all 4 of them. Now what screws do we need for them? Right, so here we have 8 socket head set screws that are going to be used for leveling the insert plate that go into these as well. So we'll just go ahead and screw them in right now. So there'll be 2 of them in each one of these phenolic blocks that hold the insert plate, and this would be for leveling the insert plate. Unfortunately, we have one here that feels like it's got some bunged up threads in it. It's still screwing in with a little bit of resistance, but it's alright. Let's go ahead and get the rest of these in. Alright, I won't bore you with all that. I'm going to get the rest of these in there, and then we'll get these screwed down to the table. So unfortunately, here we go again. The number that they have in the book for the screws does not match the number on the bag. It does say they're 1.25 inches. These are roughly 1.25 inches, and they're the only thing in here that's even close. Now I already used 4 of these for the legs, so I believe that there's enough in here to do the rest of these. At least I'm hoping there is. So, yep, exactly what we need. So these are the screws that we're going to need for here. Again, I don't think we should have to be guessing, really and truly. At least everything is here. It's not like hardware is not here that should be here. At least not yet. Okay, now that all 4 of those are screwed on, we have to take these set screws that are in here and set them 3/8 of an inch from the surface of the table. Now I kind of feel like, once again, that's something that they could have done at the factory, where you just bolt this on, but they didn't, so we get to set them to 3/8 of an inch from the top. Okay, I have a 3/8 inch setup block here, and I am just going to run these in until this is flush with the surface and have that part all done. I might have to fine tune it a little bit once I get the insert set in here, but at least we'll be really close. I'm glad they give you adjustment here to be able to get the insert set in perfectly. And that may also open the door for using other inserts. Have to wait and see on that one. Alright, so now we're going to position the legs onto the table, and I'm going to assume this is the front of the table because this is where the rail is. It does not really specify or show you. I guess in the illustration it shows the holes back here and the nameplate. Where it says Kreg, they show it turned this way. So, I'm guessing that's what we got. And just what I thought, I probably tightened these up a little too early, so I'm going to go ahead and crack these ones loose that I did tighten, just so things are a little more movable here. These are about the only screws left, so I think we don't have much of a choice here. So let's see what it says. Item number 17, which is going to be a 3/4 inch coarse thread screw. It's exactly what it says, so we're in business. So the instructions say yes. Position the legs, rails, assemblies on the bottom face of the router tabletop with the Kreg logo facing the front. The miter gauge track, like I was saying here, is at the front edge of the tabletop. Align the holes with the top flanges of the legs with the pilot holes and fasten the legs to the top with 8 3/4 inch coarse threaded screws. Be careful not to strip out the pilot holes by over tightening the screws. So you don't want to muck this stuff up because there's no going back. So what I'm seeing here is kind of what I thought. These holes don't line up perfect with what's drilled in the top because I think the legs are a little bit, I mean, it went in, but it wasn't lined up with the hole perfect. So when I put these brackets together, they were kind of squeezed in. I think that's because these legs are slightly overbent. I don't think that's something that happened in shipping. I'm seeing kind of the same thing right here. So I would say maybe a little lack of quality control right here. Not the end of the world for sure. I've seen worse, but at least the pilot hole mostly lines up with the hole in the leg. Alright, spin this thing around and get these others in, and then we're getting there. I don't want to drag it around too much on the tabletop. I'd like to preserve that for dragging other wood across the top of it. Kind of the same thing here. close. And the same thing here. Alright, now we've got these little brackets. They're probably just stiffeners for the top itself, I would assume, that need to get screwed on front and back to the bottom side of the table using that same 3/4 inch screw. I should have looked to see what time it was when I got started. I'll have a better idea at the end of the video here how long it actually took to put this together, because you're going to see some edits and some stuff like that that I don't get to see putting it together, so I will let you know at the end here exactly how long this took. Not really been aggravating, but I do wish that the instructions were labeled just a little bit more clear. Alright, with those tight, I believe the table itself is complete. The insert plate is not currently drilled for any router, so in the instructions, the next step, it's telling me there's some markings back here so that you can center your base plate from your router to the back of this, drill the holes, and that's great and everything, but the router that I'm going to use is the Ryobi router that I have. I'm going to leave in this table all the time, and these are the screws that currently hold that router into the table that it's in, and I'm going to need to countersink this side of it for these screws. I do not have a countersink to do that currently, so I'm going to do a little bit of research before I drill holes in this and potentially ruin it, because I don't have a countersink for it. So I'll research this just a little bit more, and then we'll figure it out. So this will be at the end of the video instead of now, like the instructions are saying. And then there's one other thing that I'm not real thrilled with, and I'm going to take some more time and try to fine-tune it. But I've got these set screws adjusted to where the top the insert plate is nice and flush with the top of the router table. It's got a little hang up in a couple spots, and it's not sitting level. It's a little cattywampus. I don't know if maybe the table is a little bit cattywampus, or if the insert itself is a little bit cattywampus. So I'm going to just take a few minutes and try and fine tune that out really nice before I tighten it down and like try to force it somewhere that it doesn't want to be, or worse yet, bend it. So I want to just take a little time and make sure. I mean, it feels pretty good. It could use a little bit of tweaking here and there, but I don't know that it's going to help me any at all with what I've got going on. It's rocking back and forth by about 1/16 of an inch just from one corner to the other, and there's no way, because if I push it tight over here, it feels pretty good. It's nice and flush, maybe slightly high, which would make it even more cattywampus, but it's raised up significantly over here, and when I push it down over here, it feels pretty good, but then obviously it's raised up significantly over here. We'll take a closer look at that in a few minutes. I'm not very thrilled about it, but I'm not exactly sure what's going on. So I can get a straight edge on here, I'll get my level on here or something on here to have a better look at what the issue might be. So we are going to continue on with assembling the fence. And yes, what I thought from the beginning would be my start pin that's in this package is my start pin. So for the fence, we've got these two boards here that need to go on, and obviously they're going to go on this other side over here. Spin it around. So they're going to go on like that. And like that. And they are directional. One side has the countersinks in it and one doesn't. And also the corners are all chamfered on the outside edge so that your board doesn't, or your workpiece doesn't catch on it. It helps to deflect it off. I like that. A nice little added thought there to make things operate just a little bit smoother. So let's get our hardware and get those installed. Okay, once again, things are not labeled out very good, but these are the 4 screws that I need to hold these boards onto the fence, and these are the screws that I need to hold the insert plate down in the top of the table. So we'll set those to the side. At least it does give you the links in the instructions, and it's fairly obvious that these need to be a screw that can be used in a recessed hole or a countersunk hole, so they're not flatheads, even though the instructions say that it's a flathead screw. It's pretty obvious that it can't be a flathead screw. And we've got washers. So each one of these gets a washer, and they get a thumb screw. So I'll kind of give this to them because these are extremely adjustable. Let me get a couple of bolts in here on one of them. And they do have plenty of adjustment for however you want to run your router bit or whatever size router bit that you're running. But they look to have about a total of 2 inches of adjustment. So that's a fair amount of adjustment there for each of them to have. And then earlier, let's take this one out of here for a second. Earlier I was telling you about these jointing pins that are here. And this is kind of nice because you loosen the fence up and you're able to slide these back in behind the fence. And what it does is it bumps this fence out slightly further than the other one. And what that does is it allows the board to have something to ride on after the router bit removes that small amount of material, so that one fence is inset and one is outset by about half of this thickness. Well, maybe not even quite half of this thickness, so that your board remains stable the entire time, meaning that your two fences are offset to each other enough that the material you're removing, you're compensating with this fence. So it's a really good way to joint a board. And then they have their storage right here in the fence itself, where you can just slide them in out of the way, and everything's nice and nice. So nice little storage area for them. Snug it down and you're good to go. I'm gonna go ahead and get this other side on, and then we'll go from there. So with both of them installed, we can now install the dust collection. And we have a couple of small screws right here for that. There are no washers for it. And the fence is threaded for these, so there's no nut. You just kind of screw it right on there. And I like the fact that this is set up for a regular vacuum hose, I believe. I don't see why it wouldn't be. I'm going to go ahead and get both of these screws in here, then just lay the fence down and put them in that way so I don't have to fight them. So I got both the screws slid into their holes. Just set the fence down and screw them in. With that installed, we are ready to install the tape measure. and that goes across the top in this channel right here. It is a metal tape measure with some self-adhesive or toothpaste tape on the back of it, and it does appear to be way longer than the fence. What I need to do is measure this entire thing. I don't know why it doesn't tell me what the length is, and mark the center. And then the center of this tape has a 0 on it. We line that up with our mark for center, and then we stick it down on there, and then we just trim off the excess. So it's way longer than it needs to be, but that's okay. At least it's not too short. So I'll measure this out and get center marked, and then we'll go from there. So the fence is exactly 24 inches. And here's kind of a thing I guess I wish they would have done, is just went ahead and put a little notch in here at 12 inches to make this a whole lot easier for you to line up, put on, and possibly be slightly more accurate. I guess at the end of the day, I don't know how much I'm even going to use that to begin with, especially where it's at. I think it would be more beneficial if it was on the table itself, but that's okay. So we'll see. You never know. It may come into play at some point in time, cutting a dado or something like that. I don't know. But let's go ahead and get this on there. And it does have the metric scale at the top and the US scale at the bottom. So you want to make sure that this is facing toward you. Here's our 0, here's our pencil mark, and it does fit in the groove very nicely, so get her on there. So unfortunately we have to peel the tape from one side all the way to 0. So I'm going to have to hold her up a little bit here. There's my mark. There's 0. And of course it's being a little stubborn. There it is. Alright. And once again, I guess in all realities, they could have done this at the factory. There's no reason this couldn't have been shipped with this on here. So I guess it's one way of keeping the cost down as much as they can. But I don't know. You know, I didn't really buy this router table to save a bunch of money. I bought it for its the functions and the things that it can do. So it wouldn't have mattered to me if it was you know, $3 more or $4 or $5 more, because they did stuff like this for you. I don't know how. I guess we can get pretty close. So we're a 1/16 off of 12 inches right here. I don't know if you can see that. So it should be, it's 24 inches, it should be 12 each way. But on this side, we're exactly 12 inches. I'll show you. I take that back. We're about a 1/16 the other way. So I think if I was to do this again, instead of marking 0 like the instructions say, and I should have thought about this in the first place, was just start right here at the end at 12 and run it down, and 0 would have been where 0 would have been. So they are referring to this as the bit guard, and it mounts into the T-track right there with a couple of thumb screws. So we've got, and some spacers to bump it out. So we've got these two flat-sided bolts here. Elevator bolts, is that what they call them? I believe so, elevator bolts. So these and the spacers go in from the back side, and then we get a thumb nut on the front. And then we get the same thing over here. Then these just slide right in. We'll just tighten it up right there for now. So this is kind of sort of your blade guard. You would adjust it however high you need it for your workpiece to clear underneath of it. You can see through it somewhat. I don't know how good you'll be able to see through it once it gets dusty, but you can see through it somewhat. And that's what helps protect your fingers if things go south. Alright, now we get to put things together to clamp the fence to the table. For that, we've got 4 of these guys right here. 2 of them come up under the table, and 1 of them comes down through the fence. So this would be the ones that come down through the fence, because the handle works in conjunction with them. As you can see, it's a ratcheted type top and a ratchet type configuration in the you can't call these thumb nuts, in the locking bolts that are here. So then we've got our screws right here that go through the middle of it, and then in the bottom of these we have a lock nut. So there is some adjustment to these. I've never used these before, but I've heard in some of the reviews and stuff that I watched that these are actually very unique. They take a little getting used to, but that they lock the fence in place very nicely. So let's get these installed. Now there is a way to, we're just going to put these on right out here, because from the videos that I've watched, I know that there is a way to take this fence off once all of this is installed. So we're just going to run the bolt right through there. So we've got a hold of that one, and then we're going to slide this one on this way tighten the bolt. I'll show you here in a second. Now I don't know how tight I need to tighten them just yet, so I'm just going to run them into the, these are nylon or nylock type nuts. So these two fit together just like this when they're in the table, so the two parts kind of lock together. So let's go ahead and get this one through. Alright, I'm going to set it up there and see what we need for adjustments. And obviously we need quite a bit, so I need to tighten those screws up quite a bit more. I think it'll be easier to do with it sitting on the table. So what it says is I need to tighten the screw until the there's no more play in the screw. So basically it's a fairly snug assembly. They don't want the nut to be dropping out of the bottom. So it seems to me there's no real science to adjusting these. I'll turn the table around and do the other one. I'm just gonna snug them up until they feel good to me, because they don't really tell you anything. So we'll do this one. So currently it will not lock into place. So this is the unlocked position. So we're just going to start tightening this down some. I know it's got to go a little ways. I can feel the nut still trying to pop out of the bottom. So it's getting closer, but it's still not locking it down. We'll go a little more. I felt it start to grab a little bit better, a little better. It's got a pretty good grip on it right there. I'm going to give it a little bit more. I think maybe over time as this wears in, but that's got a pretty good grip on it right there. I like that. So basically at this point that's where we're at. So, and oh, now it's coming to me. I know why the ruler's on the top here. That is actually for the stop. The stops that you can buy that you can set in here, and you could just set them off of this ruler. So don't do what I did. Make sure that you get that. Start on the 12. Don't mark 0 like the instructions say. Start on 12. You'll wind up with a better result than I got. So alright, let's go ahead and get this switch on. It's like I say, I'm a little bummed out it doesn't come with it, or at least it doesn't even tell you when you order it that, hey, if you want a switch to turn the router on and off without having to reach under the table. And I feel like it's a safety thing, right? I think that if something goes south, and what I mean by south is, yes, router tables can kick back just like anything else. So if something goes south, I want to be able to turn it off readily, not have to try and reach under and find a switch. So I felt it important to have this. Let's spin the table around here. For now, I'm gonna set this fence back up on here. I think what they were talking about, like this, when you put the fence on and off, you have to kind of reach underneath and guide that in there the right direction. No big deal. I like the fact that it comes off readily. So they offered a lot of different switches, and I don't know, I kind of sort of just wanted the Kreg switch that was supposed to be that they intended for you to use with this router, so, or this router table. So it doesn't really matter where we put it on the leg, but obviously the switch is going to go something like this. I don't think we can get it down there. No, it's going to have to go to these two holes right here, and then this is going to be your on and off. Then on the back here we have two plugs, which is nice. Router in one, vacuum in the other one, all controlled with one switch. Very nice. If you remove this orange piece here, it will lock it so that the router can't be turned on. So I kind of like the fact that it has a an American bolt. We'll have to look in a minute and see where this is made. You don't typically get too much stuff from Japan or other places that have standard thread bolts. And yes, I will put a link down in the description for everything that we have here, including the reducing rings, so that you have every size that you need. There's some little notches back here, so I won't be able to use the wrench that I just grabbed. I'm going to have to use a socket on them. I don't know. I think they're just going to grab a hold all on their own, and it seems like they did. Alright, there we have it. That was the easiest part of the whole thing right there. So anyway, I am going to do a little research on this, and tomorrow we'll get that drilled and get it all figured out and get that part taken care of. I just kind of wanted to look and see on this packaging real quick to see if I can see where it's made, where anything is made. Well, made in China, of course. I don't know about the table itself. I'm gonna look on the box and see where that's made. Some good news anyway. It says the router table itself is made in the USA. Supporting some American workers, I like that. Alright guys, I'll see you tomorrow when we get this figured out. Alright, I am now ready to get these holes drilled in here. I just have a couple of things to work through still. So I went out today and I got some countersinks, and the larger one that's missing here is in the drill press. I also bought a drill press today, Harbor Freight, a Bauer. It's gonna work. It's nice. I like it. 250 bucks. We'll see it in a minute. And these, I took this piece of wood and I just drilled some holes to sample what works the best, or what counter sink bit I needed, and I like this right here. So we've got the right size in there. We've got all that figured out. And I watched a video on Kreg last night, and I didn't notice at first, but there's some little like pilot dink marks in the bottom of this insert, and that's set up for two different routers, a 3-hole and a 4-hole, but none of those work with my router. So they have these nice hash marks in here. I hope you can see them. Try and get it on an angle so that you can line up your base plate on here, make sure that it's center, mark your holes, and drill them that way. Now my only problem is that the holes that are in my base plate for where it mounts to the router table are extremely larger than the bolt. So I don't trust it to like get the base plate all nice and set on here, tape down, and then go over and drill the holes, because I could be off by a bunch because these aren't really guides for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get it centered up on these marks that they have here. I'm going to put a little tape on it, then I'm going to take a Sharpie and I'm going to draw the each one of those circles on there. That will give me a tighter area to put these in, and then I will just center punch them and drill them that way. So I'm going to get this taped in place with just some painter's tape. I thought about maybe trying to make a template with the correct size holes in it, but that's going to be more of a challenge than just what this is going to be. So I've got it lined up on these marks really good here. I also figured out where all my adjustments were on my router, and I just drew a little arrow on the base plate. So I want that to the front side of the plate, so that everything that I need to access is at the front side of the table while I'm using the router, just to be able to raise it up and down. So they do sell these inserts that are ready to go for different routers. All the holes are drilled in them already and countersunk. But when you buy the table, you don't get that option. There's not an option in there where you can say, oh, I have a 4-hole router or a 3-hole router, or this is the bolt pattern that I have. They don't give that option. I have my base plate taped on here exactly where I want it. And I have these brad point drill bits, so I was just curious if I had one that was the same size as this hole. And I do. This is a 7/16, and it fits this hole very nicely. In fact, it just gets inside of it. So that is going to create me a very nice center point, and then I can come back with my other bit and drill that using that center point at the 5/16 hole that it needs to be. So I think I'm just going to slide this in here, tap it with my hammer a couple times in each one of them, and get this marked out exactly where I need it. Who knew that laying this out was going to be this difficult for me? But I'd rather it be precise and take the time to get it right. It is extremely difficult to see that center mark. It's there, but it's hard to see. I think what I might do then is switch gears here and actually chuck this up in a hand drill and just really slow get my center mark. Okay. So it's sitting nicely in there. That is a very good center mark. All right. Alright, we are ready to put the 5/16 bit in the drill press and drill these through. Here we are on the drill press. I've got a piece of wood underneath just to keep from any tear out on the other side. Got the light on so I can see really good. Kind of centered itself up right there. That looks really good. Let's go ahead and drill this one. Just like that. That looks perfect, guys. I'll go ahead and get this one. Right there. I don't know if you can see it or not, but when I turn on the drill press, it's moving this just a little bit. But I'm using the brad point in the drill press here also, and when it's hitting it, when I'm getting down there, it's close enough that it's just lining itself up. I feel the brad point push it back around and line it up where it needs to be. Last one. got our 3 holes in it. I'm going to just take them over and make sure that they line up the way I want them to, and then we'll come back and we will get the countersinks in them. Alright, they lined up perfectly. Now we just need to get our countersinks in here, and I'm going to, once I get one where I like it, I'm going to go ahead and just set the drill press. I'm almost at maximum depth now, so I need to raise the table just a little bit, otherwise I'm not really going to get anywhere. Alright, there we go. Still have a little ways to go here. That is looking perfect to me, so I'm going to go ahead and set the depth, so then it's just kind of a no-brainer. Come back through and do the others at the same depth. Alright. Make sure we've got the same result on every one. This one's a little bit high, and this one's a little bit high, so it did not get down quite as deep as before. There we we have it. All three of them are countersunk. Looks really good. I'm going to get this bolted down to that router. This is the bower that I picked up at Harbor Freight. It is the 12-inch low press. It's $250. I am pretty happy with it. It's got a laser, a light. It's got the digital speed right here, and it's very easy to adjust the speed. So at this point in time, I can say I like it for what it is, for the little bit of use that it's going to get. I've been wanting one for quite some time, and this is what I just chose to do. So it's not super expensive, but it's not going to get used a ton, and it's precise enough for me. Okay, I've got this insert sitting on there right where I want it. And I couldn't be more glad that I took the time to do a little research, go get these countersinks, and then just look everything over and find the best way to get that pattern from that base plate over to this insert plate, just to make sure that the router was centered so that all my bits are coming up through the reducing rings where they should be. I like that a lot. They're inset just a little bit. This one kind of is flush on this side, and it might be sticking up just a tick over here. I don't think it's enough for anything to hang up on, but it does feel like it's up just a little bit. I think I'm going to trim this one out just a little bit more. Okay, I trimmed this one down just a little more, went the countersink just a little bit deeper. Every one of these are slightly below the surface, so I am happy with that. Let's get this thing in the table. Now, I may have to do a little more adjusting on the plates here, I'm not sure. But there we have it. See, and this is the rocking I was talking about that I'm not very fond of. It's really good this way. This is maybe, man, it's so close, but this thing is so rigid. I'm not sure what's going on. I push it down on one side, it's nice. I push it down on this side, it's nice. So it's not like these sides are in there nice and flush also. So I don't understand quite what's going on here, but we're going to tighten it up and see if it pulls into place. But something isn't completely flat here. Whether it's this insert, which I kind of doubt. This insert seems to be pretty stout. If it's plastic, I don't know what kind of plastic it is. It seems to be more of a phenolic type material. I'm gonna snug these up first. edge seems a little bit high. So they give you those two screws, two set screws on each side, which seems kind of odd, but they do. So I'm just going to back this one off some. And I mean, that is like perfect. Yeah, maybe slightly low. No, I don't think so. I think that's good. This one seems to be slightly low, and the other one slightly high, so I like that. Maybe just a tick high on this edge. I'm going to lower this one down just a little bit. That's nice. Now we'll tighten this one down. So this has kind of just flexed into place. It's all lining up nice. I mean, it was about a 1/16 of an inch wobble there that Alright, I like that. Funny thing is it seems a little high in the center, but it's good here. And the same thing over here. It's good this way. So I'm guessing these things just aren't quite 100% perfect. Alright guys, with that insert in there, this video is a wrap. A recap, I wish the instructions were a little clearer. The screws and stuff were laid out just a little bit better in the packaging. I wish that there was maybe some templates in there for your router to help you better set that up with center point marks on them for some different routers. There's no reason they couldn't print something like that up in the book. I wish it wouldn't have told me to mark out 0 and start at 0 on this tape, but rather start at 12 and lay it out, because I am a 1/16 of an inch off on this tape. So if I ever do get the stops for this, then that might come into play then. Maybe I'll order a new one and pull this one off and put a new one on. I'm not sure. Would have been nice had the switch come with it. But, and of course all the reducers that you might need for the top of it. But other than that, I'm pretty happy with how everything went together. It seems to be of pretty high quality. I think the legs had a little bit of a twist to them, but all the pre-drilled holes in the top lined up with the holes in there. And it might have been, you know, nice to have an aluminum top instead of a particle board. I don't have a moisture issue in here, but irregardless, I can say this insert plate is pretty rugged stuff. Whatever this is, it's pretty rugged. So like I say, it seems like it's a phenolic type material. I don't know what it is. Feels like aluminum almost, but it's obviously plastic or some type of plastic. So the fence locks I like, the adjustments, and the ability to joint a board on here. Now it's not going to join a huge board, but you know, you could probably joint a 3-foot board on here with precision, would be my guess. And we'll kind of dig into some of that stuff. I'm going to do a video in the near future on how to use a router table safely. So keep your eyes out for that. That's all we got for this time. If you haven't subscribed yet, I would greatly appreciate it if you would consider doing so. If you enjoyed yourself, click on one of those two videos going to pop up below me. And remember to always respect the power of your power tools. We'll see you soon. You'll find all this stuff down in the description, links to go get your own.